This is Yin. And these are conversations about discipline, direction, and identity, and how they quietly shape who you become. If you care about moving through life with intention, you're in the right place. If you're not there yet, but you want to be, stay. But if you're looking for shortcuts, noise, or motivation without responsibility, this isn't for you, and that's by design. Now, for those of you who are still here, this is where the work begins. In these conversations, we've talked about the importance of moving without the need for validation, the importance of doing the work when nobody is watching. So, in today's conversation, we're going to dive deeper into what that actually means and why moving in silence matters not only for protecting your vision, but for keeping yourself mentally grounded while you build. I want to start this conversation by thinking about the last time you shared something you were genuinely excited about, something you were building, something you were working towards, and the person you told didn't respond the way you hoped. What happened to your energy after that conversation? And ask yourself this: why did you feel the need to tell that person in the first place? You see, we assume that closeness means alignment, that the people who have been with us the longest or love us the most naturally want for us what we want for ourselves. But is that always true? Sometimes the people in our lives have a version of us in their heads that they've grown comfortable with. And when we start to move beyond that version, when we start to build something that doesn't fit the picture they have of us, it creates a tension. Not always out of malice, sometimes it's out of familiarity, sometimes out of their own fears reflected back at us. And it can show up quietly: a hesitation when you share good news, a question that feels less like curiosity and more like skepticism. But sometimes it can be more direct than that. Sometimes it's the person who responds to your excitement with a list of reasons why it won't work. The one who brings up every time something didn't go the way you planned it, as if your past is the most reliable evidence of what your future can hold. The one who frames their doubt as wisdom, as if they're protecting you from something, when really they're just uncomfortable with the possibility that you might actually succeed. And what makes this complicated is that these people aren't always easy to walk away from. They're woven into our lives. So you keep sharing. You keep looking for the moment when they finally see what you see. And every time they don't, something small gets taken from you. Those voices in our heads create doubt. That tension has a cost, and most people don't recognize until the damage is already done. When you're building something new, the early stages carry a particular kind of vulnerability. Not because you're weak, but because early means unproven. You have a vision that hasn't become results yet. You still need to validate the belief for yourself. And in that space, before the proof exists, what you're carrying is fragile. Think of it as a plant in the earliest stages. Certain environments will determine whether it grows or whether it doesn't. The conditions matter because the roots are not yet deep enough to withstand everything. Your vision works the same way. Silence in this context isn't about secrecy. It isn't about distrust. It's about understanding that not everyone who is in your life is in your corner. It's choosing consciously who gets access to what you are becoming. So ask yourself this question: what kind of environment have you been growing your vision in? Are the conversations you're having about what you're building feeding it or quietly pulling from it? And here's the part that doesn't get talked about enough: the mental cost of constantly exposing your vision to the wrong people is exhausting in a way that's very hard to explain. You find yourself spending energy defending something that shouldn't need a defense. You start second guessing decisions that felt clear before you opened your mouth. And you walk into conversations grounded and leave scattered. That's not just discouragement. That's a drain on the mental clarity you need to actually execute. Building something requires a certain kind of focus, a quiet, sustained attention that is very difficult to maintain when you're constantly processing other people's doubts along with your own. Silence isn't just about protection for your vision, it's protection for the mental space the vision needs to develop. Now, here's where we get more personal because protecting your vision from outside noise is one layer, but there's another reason silence matters, and it has nothing to do with the people around you. When you move in silence, you remove the audience. And when the audience is gone, what's left is just you and the work. No reactions, no one watching the process, no external signal telling you that what you're doing matters. And when there's no one watching, do you still do the work? Do you still refine the process? Because if the answer is no, if the motivation slows when no one is paying attention, that's worth sitting with. It might mean that part of what's driving you isn't the vision itself, but the visibility. There's no judgment in that. It's a deeply human thing, but it's worth being honest about because the need for visibility has a way of quietly steering the work that we're doing. We start making decisions based on what looks good rather than what's right for the thing we're building. You gravitate towards the parts of the process that are visible and pull back from the ones that aren't. And over time, the work starts to reflect that. It becomes more about the image of building than the substance of what's being built. And the hardest part is it can be difficult to see in yourself because it doesn't always feel like chasing. It can feel like you're sharing your journey. It can feel like accountability. It can feel like a community. And those things aren't wrong on their own, but they become a problem when they're quietly serving as the fuel that keeps you moving. Because the fuel is unreliable, the reaction's slow, the attention shifts, and you haven't built an internal reason to keep going. So the momentum goes with it. Attention comes and goes. And if your momentum is tied to that attention, your progress will be too. There's a version of building that's entirely internal, where the work itself is the point, where direction is set by conviction, not by who's watching or who's going to be impressed by the destination. That kind of building has a different quality to it. It's steadier. It doesn't spike when someone notices it, and it doesn't drop when they don't. It doesn't need to perform for anyone because it isn't performing. It's just moving quietly, consistently. And that steadiness is actually one of the most important things you can develop as someone building something real because the road is long. There will be stretches where nothing is happening externally. No wins to announce, no milestones to share, no visible proof that the work is compounding. And in those stretches, the only thing that keeps you moving is an internal conviction that is completely independent of what anyone else can see. That's what silence builds in you. Not just protection from outside noise, but the capacity to be your own source of momentum, to trust the direction even when there's nothing to show for it yet. And the only way to know if you're building in that way is to remove the audience and see what happens to your drive. Silence isn't just protection from the outside, it's a mirror for the inside. It shows you whether you're moving because you believe in where you're going or whether you're moving because of how it looks to be moving. Both can produce short term results, but only one can sustain something worth building. If no one ever knew about what you were building, would you still be committed to finishing it? I want you to sit with that question because it's a very important question to answer. I want you all to do something for me this week. Take an honest look at who you've been sharing your vision with, not to judge those relationships, but to observe whether those conversations have been adding to your energy or quietly pulling from it. And then pick one thing you're currently building and make a decision not to talk about it for 7 days. No updates, no check ins, no sharing the process. Only build it. And at the end of the week, notice what changed in your focus, in your motivation, in your relationships to the work itself. Silence has a way of clarifying things. When the noise is removed, all the opinions, all the reactions, what remains is just you and what you're building. And in that space, you begin to understand something important. You begin to understand whether the vision belongs to you or whether part of it belongs to the idea of being seen. So remember this: the goal isn't silence forever. The goal is building something real enough and rooted enough that when the world does finally get to see it, their opinion could never outweigh your reason for building it. This is yin. If this resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not everyone, just someone who's ready. You can find Yin Worldwide Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you want to go deeper, visit our website at liveyin.com. That's www.liveyin.com. Subscribe if you're committed to the work. If not, that's fine too. This isn't for everyone. Remember, move with intention.